What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to break down episode 12 of Attack on Titan season 4, in which Eren finally used the power of the Warhammer Titan and his army of supporters turned into full-blown terrorists. Today I'll be talking about all the parts I felt needed explaining, including why Zachary had to die, Peak's arrival on Paradis Island, and a few subtle differences between the anime and manga. Before we begin, I'd really appreciate if you hit the sub button as we are on the road to 250k, and of course let me know in the comments what you thought of the episode. Okay, so episode 12 was called Guides, and it starts off with Armin trying to get to second base with Annie's Titan Crystal. Armin's recent obsession with Annie is definitely out of character for him, though when we look at the full context of everything, it's not hard to figure out why he's doing this. In the 4 years that Annie has been inside this crystal, how many times did Armin go to visit her before he inherited the Colossal Titan? My guess is not many. I mean, we definitely never saw it, and it was never really implied from anything the characters said. Therefore, it's a bit strange that ever since he inherited Bertholt's Titan, he seemingly goes to visit Annie whenever he has free time. Bertholt and Annie obviously knew each other since childhood, and as we all know, he had a massive crush on her. Armin's new fascination with Annie is likely because of the influence of Bertholt's memories, but I don't think even he realizes that. As he goes to touch the crystal, Hitch enters the room at the most awkward possible moment, with Armin visibly getting flustered trying to explain himself. Hitch is the person that usually watches over Annie, although from time to time Armin will come in and, fill in for her. A random piece of trivia for those that might not know is that Hitch and Annie used to be squad mates together in the military police, and their friendship was very briefly explored in the spin-off manga Lost Girls. I say it was a friendship, it was more like an acquaintance, and that storyline happened one day before Annie tried to capture Eren. Anyway, in the present day, she hands Armin a newspaper which helps to explain the current situation on Paradis Island. To put it simply, Floch's plan is working perfectly, as in the last episode he and a bunch of recruits leaked information to the public to raise support for Eren's release. That leaked info was able to get a small group of people to gather outside military HQ, but in this episode, as we can see, the support for Eren has exploded, pun intended. Citizens across the island are furious that Eren is being held prisoner, and they perceive the military to be the bad guys who are unjustly detaining him. To make matters worse, the military hasn't even tried to explain why they're keeping Eren prisoner, which only made the people more pissed off. In the manga, Hitch stated that Eren's supporters have surrounded every military base, so it's almost like there's a revolution going on. Mikasa meets Armin at military HQ because, as they said a couple episodes ago, their aim is to have a talk with Eren so they can figure out his goals. Currently, the military's plan is to have someone they can trust eat Eren, so these two want to save his life by talking to him and proving he's on their side. The first step in that plan is to convince Zachary to let them see Eren, because as the head of the military, nothing happens without his approval. Before they reach his office, they notice there are some new Survey Corps recruits at HQ, something which never normally happens. New recruits normally have no reason to be here, but on this occasion they came to bring Zachary's torture device to his office. This is important because that device had a bomb planted inside it, but at this stage of the episode obviously we didn't know that. The torture device was previously seen during the uprising in season 3, where Zachary showed his sadistic side as he tortured nobles. I won't get into the disgusting detail of how this thing works, but just know that Zachary claimed he hated the nobles and always intended to overthrow them. That's why later in the episode, Pixis felt that Zachary would have been somewhat satisfied to die at the hands of a revolution. After the new recruits made their appearance, the anime switches over to Commander Pixis and Yelena, who had been confronted with some incriminating information. Ever since the Marley and volunteers arrived on the island, Eren was shown not to have real contact with any of them, with Levi even going out of his way to stop Yelena talking to him. Despite that, there was one night around 10 months ago in which Floch was assigned to watch over Yelena, and as we know, this guy is one of Eren's most loyal followers. On the night in question, there was a party going on, but Yelena left early, with Floch escorting her back to her house. Eren happened to live not too far away from that location, so you can understand why Pixis suspected something might be going on. In this episode, she straight up admits that she did meet with Eren that night, although she claims she did it in the best interest of the island. For 3 years now, Yelena, Zeke, and the other volunteers have long been suspected of having an ulterior motive, so the fact she would risk meeting with Eren in secret is a huge deal. At the time of their meeting 10 months ago, the island of Paradis was in a very vulnerable position, because they still had no allies around the world besides Hizuru, and without Zeke on the island, they could not use the power of the founding Titan to defend themselves. Only with Zeke's presence could they use the rumbling to defend themselves, but the leaders on Paradis like Hanji kept on wasting valuable time. Eren agreed to meet Yelena because he personally felt the island was in danger, and Floch was the middleman that allowed the meeting to happen. We don't know the true extent of what was discussed, but the fact is that after Yelena and Eren made contact, Eren began acting more independently before eventually going to Marley to get Zeke himself. Whichever way you look at it, this secret meeting was super suspicious, as it almost looks like Yelena influenced Eren to do what he did. While there's still no solid evidence that Yelena has done anything that's against Paradis Island's interests, Onyankopon makes it clear that he had no idea she met Eren. This confirms for us that if there is some secret evil plan going on, then not all of the volunteers would know about it because, clearly Onyankopon didn't know, and he's essentially her right-hand man. His conversation with Hanji raises even more suspicion about Yelena because, as we know, she hates Marley and has never been afraid to kill Marleyans if she needs to. Despite that, since she's been on the island, she's fought for the rights of Marleyans, and even argued that they should have jobs and other benefits. The question Hanji wonders is what reason could Yelena have for wanting Marleyans to integrate onto Paradis in this way, even though she's shown no regard for their lives in the past. The fact is that right now we just don't know her true motivations, although the plot does keep thickening. Moving over to Zachary's office now, Armin and Mikasa attempted to convince him to let them speak with Eren, but by then it was already too late. By this point in the day, Zachary was made aware of Yelena's secret meeting with Eren, and it totally destroyed the little bit of trust that they still had left in him. Eren's refusal to say anything only made them more suspicious, with Zachary now believing that Eren is almost like a puppet of Zeke. There is nothing that Armin or Mikasa could have said in this meeting that would have redeemed Eren in Zachary's eyes, which is why we see 3 military police officers heading towards his office. One of those MPs was most likely going to be chosen to inherit the founding Titan. However, Eren's supporters had something to say about that as they blew up the candidates alongside Zachary himself. From this point of the video, I'll be referring to the group of Eren supporters as the Jaegerists, and from their perspective, this act of terrorism was necessary for 2 main reasons. Reason number 1 is that with the military's plan to transfer the founding Titan to another person, they felt they had no choice but to take action and kill the potential successors. By doing what they did, there is now no chance that the military will try to act in the same way. Secondly, Floch already made it clear that they want Eren to leave Paradis Island, and with Zachary now dead, the military is destabilized to an extent. This confusion leaves a potential void for the Jaegerists to seize power. It was interesting that after this surprise attack, Eren's mob of supporters outside of HQ were energized by these events, as they saw it as the beginning of Eren's revolution. I'm just surprised that so many regular civilians seem to be just cool with seeing a dead body like that. Like, even if you support Eren, surely this is a horrifying thing to witness. In a quick emergency meeting between the 3 military branches, plus Onyankopon, they quickly begin to review the situation. Armin realizes that it was the new Survey Corps recruits that planted the bomb, much to everyone's horror, but I gotta say, it's peculiar that so many new recruits seem to be anti-establishment. Last week we saw how certain new recruits have been helping to leak information about Eren, and now other recruits are assassinating the Commander-in-Chief. At this stage in the episode, things were definitely beginning to turn in Eren's favour, but it was topped off by the outstanding reveal that the man himself had now escaped from his underground cell. Using the power of the Warhammer Titan, Eren was able to dig an underground tunnel from which to escape. Although the anime didn't show this part happening, Eren sealed off his escape route with Titan hardening so that no one in the military could chase after him. We got this awesome sequence of Eren walking towards his supporters like some kind of prophet, and it's clear that he spent at least some time in jail doing crunches. Floch and the other Jaegerists were able to escape because there are many prison guards on Paradis who believe in Eren's cause, and in fact those are the guards who told Eren what day and time to break out. Like Floch said, the group here is a small fraction of Eren's supporters, so it really does seem like the pieces are in place for him to take over the island. Right now his only goal is to find Zeke, because once that happens it's game over for anyone who would try to stop them. With the full power of the founding Titan, Eren would basically be invincible, and could protect the island from invading forces by whatever means necessary. Willy Tybur warned that Eren could destroy the world, and with Eren and Zeke working together, that possibility becomes a reality. This moment with Eren putting on his hoodie is possibly one of the most iconic ever moments from the manga, so I was genuinely intrigued to see how they would do it. Overall, it looks fantastic. I mean, he definitely seems more aggressive in the anime, which is great because it conveys his determination even better. Next up, the military leaders organized a new meeting, with Kiyomi having the most awkward seat in the house. She arrived in the last episode to witness the partial test of the rumbling, which would have happened if these MPs were not assassinated. Instead of that, she's been caught up in the middle of a civil war and watches on as the MPs bicker with the Survey Corps. The arrival of Pixis brought some stability to the meeting, but ultimately his game plan is to surrender to Eren. When we look back at past seasons, Pixis has always put the needs of humanity ahead of his own personal preferences, and he always chooses the practical options that result in the least bloodshed. From his point of view, they can avoid unnecessary deaths by negotiating with the Jaegerists in good faith. Pixis is smart here because he knows that the Jaegerists want to find out where Zeke is, and only people within the military like Hanji know that information. By using knowledge of Zeke's location to their advantage, Pixis can negotiate some kind of agreement that would prevent a civil war from breaking out. As the meeting ends, Kiyomi assures Mikasa that if everything goes to hell, the offer is open for Mikasa to flee to Hizuru if she wants. Although Mikasa declined, through their conversation we realize an important truth about Kiyomi, and that's that she doesn't care who rules the island. All that matters to her is that Paradis is able to perform a rumbling with the colossal titans in the walls, because that's the only thing that can protect their investment. Remember that for the last 3 years, Hizuru has been mining the iceberg stone from Paradis and using it to develop new technologies like this flying boat. As long as the island has the rumbling as a defense, then Hizuru are destined to make a ton of profit because they're the only other nation that is allowed to access the iceberg stone. Without the rumbling to defend themselves, other nations like Marley could blitz the island and potentially steal those resources for themselves. That is one of the reasons why Marley initially invaded Paradis with the warriors, and although that reason is not really spoken about much, we know from Yaeger's flashback that they wanted the resources. With that said, it is still true that Kiyomi does care about Mikasa and genuinely wants to protect her regardless of what happens. The episode ends with the Survey Corps riding on horseback to explore a hunch that Hanji hopes might reveal Yelena's true intentions. Restaurants are one of the places that Marley and workers operate, and the scene pans to Sasha's family as they arrive to the restaurant where they were invited to come by Niccolo. Today is that day when they all arrive, and you'll see that Gabby and Falco were also present after Kaya invited them to come along. These two know Niccolo is a Marleyan, so they're hoping to meet him, so we'll see what's happening with that in the next episode. Whilst the Survey Corps gallop on their horses, we see none other than Peak in the background, who has infiltrated Paradis Island. We don't currently know where the other warriors are, but Peak's presence in the city could only be for one reason. She mentioned how Marley couldn't afford to lose Gabby and Falco, so she's most likely here to collect them before Marley rains down hellfire on the island. It's super impressive that Peak was not only able to just infiltrate the island, but also able to locate important characters like Armin, Mikasa, and Hanji so quickly. If you gave her some more time, I reckon she'd probably find Zeke before the Jaegerists do. With that said, that was my breakdown for episode 12 of Attack on Titan Season 4, in which things are really getting intense. As usual, I'd appreciate if you dropped a like if you liked the video, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Until the next one, peace out.